Hello guys, this is your friend and we are back with a new fanfic. Where is Kakashi-sensei? Ino yelled. She, along with Tenchi, Naruto, Sakura, Sasuke, Shikamaru and Choji had been waiting for 1.5 hours now. Tenchi and Naruto sat under the shade of a tree, meditating, while Shikamaru lay next to them, looking at the sky. Choji sat next to Shikamaru, eating his chips. Ino and Sakura were standing next to the tree, while Sasuke was brooding a little distance away. Tenchi sighed. I knew he would do this, he thought grimly. Kyuubi, who heard, snickered a little. Sasuke, get over here. Tenchi called. Reluctantly Sasuke walked over. Tenchi got impatient. Get over here Uchiha. When your superior gives an order, you execute that order swiftly and efficiently. Now hurry up, or I'll decide to punish you. Tenchi commanded. Sasuke huffed and walked a little faster. Okay. Next time you do what I say without grumbling. Now, Sasuke spar with Sakura, Ino spar with Shikamaru and Choji spar with Naruto. Tenchi commanded. Sasuke rolled his eyes annoyed. Sakura smiled happily. Ino yelled that she would beat the lazy boy. Shikamaru mumbled troublesomely. Choji continued eating while Naruto jumped up and yelled that he would show that he was best. Unknown to Team 10, Naruto, Sakura and Ino had been ordered by Tenchi not to show their best moves or real strength. On my mark, begin. Tenchi said, still meditating under the tree. Sakura stared at Sasuke, and wondered what happened to her feelings for the Uchiha. What's going on? I'm in love with Sasuke-kun, right? Then why don't I feel as warm inside when I look at him as usual? It feels, Sakura didn't get a chance to think about it more, since Sasuke decided to attack. He charged her with a kunai drawn, and was surprised when she moved with impressive speed and dodged. He was even more surprised when Sakura jumped, flipped in the air and tried to kick him in the head, using the spin to create additional force. Sasuke dodged, and kicked Sakura in the stomach. She flew a little but flipped, placed her hands on the ground and did a couple of hand springs. Sakura groaned. The additional weights were really making things difficult. She had to use all her chakra just to move at the speed she was. Sasuke wasn't giving her much of a break either, charging after her and trying to kick and punch her. Sakura was forced to dodge and block. She couldn't see an opening to counter-attack. This was starting to frustrate her. Ino was also staring at Sasuke, and just like Sakura, she didn't get the familiar feelings to the same extent that she always used to get when they were in the academy. Huh, what's going on? Why isn't Sasuke-kun so hot anymore? Ino thought, but couldn't find any answer. She decided to ask her mother when she was done here, and charged at Shikamaru, who tried to catch her in his shadow. She dodged and threw 4 shuriken towards him. He dodged as well, but that was what Ino had wanted, since she was right behind her shuriken, moving faster than Shikamaru thought she could and hit him right in the face. He stumbled backwards and was rewarded with a kick to the chin, sending him flying into the air. Shikamaru was confused. How did she become so good? Shikamaru asked himself, before feeling Ino's fist in his kidney, and then a lot of pain. Naruto looked at Choji, mumbled something about eating and fighting not belonging together and charged. Choji looked up and saw Naruto charging, drawing a kunai. Slightly concerned for his food, Choji formed some seals for his family. Multi-size no, he yelled and turned into a human meatball. Naruto skidded to a halt and looked at the big boy in front of him. Just how am I supposed to fight something like that? It's just a lot of fat. Naruto said and fire erupted in Choji's eyes. I'm not fat. I am big-boned. Hooray for big-boned people. Choji yelled and started rolling towards Naruto with impressive speed. Naruto jumped out of the way and did some seals. Kaden. Gukaku no. Naruto yelled and blasted a huge fireball towards Choji, who didn't see it coming. The ball hit Choji and blasted him straight into some trees, where he passed out. Okay. That was short. Naruto said while grabbing Choji before walking over to Tenchi and looking at the rest of the fights, while Tenchi checked Choji for injuries. Sakura was still fighting Sasuke, and it looked like she would lose. She hadn't got any good hits at all. Sasuke, to his frustration, hadn't landed many hits either, but he was on the offense, while Sakura was forced to play defensive. Sasuke would try to punch her, and she would block it. He tried to kick her and she jumped out of the way. He threw 3 shuriken after her, but she used a kunai to deflect them. Sasuke grew tired, jumped back and formed the seals for the Gukakyu. Sakura tried to make the seals for the Doryuheki, but Sasuke was too fast for her. He spit his fireball at her from less than 20 feet away. Sakura didn't have time to react, but Tenchi did. Using Shunshin he caught her and appeared next to Naruto. Alright, Sasuke wins against Sakura. Tenchi said and Sakura looked sad. Sasuke smirked arrogantly. Well, it seems like you have gained some skills, forehead girl, but you are no match for me. Such a pathetic excuse for a ninja. I bet you use all your time trying to look good, instead of training. Don't bother, it isn't working. Sasuke nearly spat out. Sakura looked like she was about to cry. She looked really heartbroken. So, this is how Sasuke-kun really feels. That I am weak and ugly. Why is he so mean? Why is he such a, Sakura thought, stammering even in her own thoughts, but she didn't get to finish, since Naruto interrupted her chain of thoughts. Bastard. How dare you speak like that to Sakura-chan? You could never hope to see just how beautiful she is. Sakura-chan will always be too good for a bastard like you. She's smart, funny, pretty and strong. You don't even know how strong she is, you stupid Sasuke-tem. Naruto yelled, shaking a fist at Sasuke. Sakura stared at him in wonder. He's standing up for me. Why? Sakura thought. She then looked at Tenchi, and was slightly scared. His eyes, although still their warm brown, were filled with intense rage. Towards Sasuke. He looked like he would kill Sasuke soon, and Sakura was shocked that she didn't care much about that. Sasuke looked at Naruto and shook his head. Shut up dead last. You are a disgrace to all ninjas. It is a miracle you even graduated, an even greater miracle that you got him, the famous White Wolf, as a sensei. Sasuke said and pointed to Tenchi, who seemed to get an idea and smirked evilly. Is that so, Sasuke-kun? Well, why don't you and Naruto spar then? In fact, that is an order, and Naruto. Tenchi said and walked over to Naruto, and whispered something in his ear. When he pulled away, Naruto's eyes were wide and his grin was huge. Really? Naruto asked and Tenchi nodded. Of course. Why not? He asked and Naruto smirked while looking at Sasuke. Alright, I'll kick your butt Sasuke-tem. Naruto said confidently, while Sasuke just snorted. Ino heard Sasuke announced as the winner, and was slightly concerned for Sakura, but she couldn't stop moving or Shikamaru would trap her. But when Sasuke began speaking to Sakura like he did, both Ino and Shikamaru stopped moving, listening to what he said. Ino was fuming. No, she was enraged. How dare he? How dare Sasuke-kun? No, not Sasuke-kun. He doesn't deserve that name. How dare Sasuke talk to Sakura like that? Sure, she is annoying and has a big forehead, but she is, Ino thought, but broke off when she heard Naruto start yelling at Sasuke. Ino smiled from what she heard. Hey, for once Naruto knows what he is talking about. She thought and snickered at the nickname Naruto made for Sasuke. She turned to Shikamaru. I'm sorry Shika, but I want to finish this fast so I can watch Sasuke get his ass kicked by Naruto. She said, and Shikamaru huffed and mumbled. He then saw Ino making seals and suddenly clear spheres were flying at him. They were about the size of snowballs. Shikamaru dodged, spun and jumped to get away from the spheres. Ino charged but suddenly found herself unable to move. Shadow imitation success. Shikamaru said and Ino glared as best as she could. Shikamaru ignored the glare and walked to the right. Ino followed, mirroring his steps. Shikamaru walked and stopped so that Ino was standing in front of a tree. A very hard-looking tree. Sorry Ino, but as you said, this fight should finish now. Shikamaru said and swiftly bowed. Ino couldn't control herself, mirrored the bow and smacked her head on the tree. She was knocked unconscious. Shikamaru sighed before moving over to pick her up, but Tenchi appeared next to her. Nice strategy Shikamaru. I just hope you won't treat Ino like Sasuke treated Sakura. Tenchi said, while picking Ino up. Shikamaru sighed and shook his head. It may be troublesome, but I disagree with Sasuke's attitude. Ino isn't weak, and she would have won if she was a little better at making up strategies. He said, and Tenchi smiled before walking over to Sakura. Once there, he sat Ino down and used some of his chakra to wake her. She did have the mother of all headaches though, and since Tenchi pretty much was clueless when it came to medical, he couldn't help her. Ino moaned before looking around and seeing Sakura next to her, still looking depressed. Quickly scooting over to hug her, Ino stroked Sakura's hair. Sakura hugged Ino back, mumbling something like, "Why is Sasuke-kun like that?" Ino grasped Sakura's shoulders and looked into her eyes. Sakura, the Sasuke we thought we knew doesn't exist. He showed us just what he is today. He isn't anything other than a bastard and doesn't deserve our love or being called kun. Ino said and Sakura nodded, sadness exchanged with anger and determination. I won't be what Sasuke said I was. I will be a strong and beautiful kunoichi. Sakura said. Tenchi, who was standing next to Ino and looking at the spar between Sasuke and Naruto, smiled and looked down at Ino and Sakura. You both are that already. All that Naruto said you are, both of you are. Got that Sakura? Ino. Never let anyone tell you differently, and don't think you love someone who treats you like that. Instead go for someone who loves you like you are, and sees how you really are. Tenchi said, and both Ino and Sakura were a bit comforted by that. Ino then gave him a suspicious glare. Someone like Naruto you mean? She asked and Tenchi chuckled. Your words Ino, not mine. But why not? You were both wrong about Sasuke being Mr. Right, perhaps you are wrong about Naruto not being dateable, Tenchi said. Ino and Sakura exchanged glances before turning to watch the fight. That's Sasuke. He managed to get the two girls who liked him the most to lose their crush and probably hate him. Is revenge all he cares about? Tenchi thought. Naruto and Sasuke glared at each other, standing with about 3 steps worth of distance between them. Sasuke stood with one foot slightly in front of the other, one hand at chest height, and the other over his kunai pouch. Naruto stood with his feet shoulder width, his arms slightly bent at his sides. Both Naruto and Sasuke had determined looks on their faces, but one major difference. Sasuke was smirking and was his arrogant self, while Naruto was angry. I'll make him pay for what he said to Sakura-chan. He thought. Kyuubi wouldn't normally care much, but this time he openly agreed to Naruto. That's the right kit. No one insults the mate of the vessel for the great Kyuubi no Kitsune. Kyuubi growled and Naruto mentally blushed at having Sakura referred to as his mate. Sasuke saw a slight drop in Naruto's defenses and quickly threw 4 shuriken and 2 kunai at the blonde boy. Naruto noticed and dodged, but Sasuke was already on him, punching and kicking. Naruto did a great job of dodging and blocking. Not once did Sasuke land a punch or kick on Naruto. Sasuke suddenly jumped back and formed seals. Kaden. Gukakyu no. Sasuke called out and blasted a fireball towards Naruto. Sakura and Ino gasped as they saw the fireball hit Naruto, but then they saw the puff of smoke, indicating that Naruto used a kage bunshin. Sasuke saw the smoke and looked around, but couldn't see Naruto. Tenchi smiled when he saw Naruto's tactic. Sasuke felt someone behind him and spun around with a kunai and stabbed Naruto in the chest, but Naruto burst into smoke and Sasuke felt a kunai pressed against his neck. Well, it seems the great Uchiha got bested by the dead last. Naruto said and Sasuke growled. He moved his hand slightly, but Naruto grabbed it and held it firmly against Sasuke's back, nearly breaking it. Idiot, I am holding you hostage. Give up or else. Naruto growled. Or else what died last? You're going to kill me? Sasuke asked. In real combat I would already have. Naruto said, while grinning humorlessly. Alright, that is enough. Naruto, release Sasuke. Kakashi got down here. Tenchi said and Naruto did as he said, but the moment he did, Sasuke spun around and tried to punch Naruto's throat. Naruto managed to block, but when Sasuke pulled back his fist for another strike, he felt his hand being grabbed by two hands. Turning his head, he saw Kakashi standing behind him on his right, one hand holding Sasuke's arm, while the other held an orange book called Ika Ika Paradise. Tenchi was on Sasuke's left, one hand holding Sasuke's arm, the other in Tenchi's pocket. But unlike Kakashi, who was reading the orange book, Tenchi was staring at Sasuke coldly. Yo. Sorry I am late, Kakashi said cheerfully. Sakura, Ino and Naruto recovered from the shock and yelled at the gray-haired Junin, you're late. Tenchi turned to look at Kakashi. They are right. I thought I asked you not to be late. I had to start a spar just so the kids could have something to do. Tenchi said and Kakashi smiled, or Tenchi thought he did, from the way his visible eyes formed a shape. The rest of Kakashi's face was, as always, covered with either his face mask, or his forehead protector that he had tilted over his left eye. Apparently that got a little out of hand. Kakashi said cheerfully. Don't give me that crap. You know what happened, since you have been sitting in that tree for 15 minutes already. Haven't you taught Sasuke anything? He attacked when the fight was over. That isn't something that should be done in training. Tenchi scolded and Kakashi released Sasuke and scratched his head sheepishly. Ah, well, you see, we haven't had much time for training yet and, Kakashi began but was stopped by a glare from Tenchi. I don't care. Do something about this arrogant Uchiha, or else I will. Tenchi said, raising his hand that still was holding onto Sasuke's arm, a little more into the air, lifting Sasuke a little off the ground. Kakashi looked uncomfortable. Tenchi was still looking angry and half-released Sasuke, who promptly fell to the ground. Kids, come here, Tenchi commanded, and Naruto, Sakura and Ino hurried over to him. Shikamaru and Choji also followed orders relatively quickly. Tenchi looked annoyed for a bit before turning to Kakashi. This was your splendid idea. What now? Tenchi asked and Kakashi put away his book. How about testing to see which elemental suits the kids best? Kakashi suggested but Tenchi shook his head. Already done. He simply said and Kakashi's eyes widened slightly. Then how about a tree walk? Nope. Naruto, Sakura and Ino have mastered that. Tenchi said and Team 7 beamed with pride. Sasuke, Shikamaru and Choji didn't know what tree walk was, so they didn't know what was so great about mastering that. Kakashi was surprised but didn't show it. Well then Mr. Super Sensei. You think of something. Kakashi said and Tenchi glared a little before turning to the 6 genin. Alright, this is how we do it. Naruto, you and Shikamaru are going to spar. Sakura and Choji will also spar. Ino will try to spot faults with how you four are fighting. Tenchi said. Naruto looked at Shikamaru and grinned, while Shikamaru sighed and mumbled, troublesome. Oh and Shikamaru. Next time you say something troublesome in training or on missions with me, you are going to take some punishment. To be nice, I will let it go this time, but next time I won't be nice. Tenchi said and Shikamaru stared at him while Ino snickered. She stopped when Tenchi glared at her though. Sakura looked at Choji and sighed. I am fighting a fat ass. Naruto beat him in less than 2 minutes. She thought. Choji didn't think much, other than of eating. Ino was thinking about her task, wondering why she had been assigned that. She sat down against a tree overlooking the 2 pairs of genin, a notebook in her hands. Okay. Ino is the leader of the spar. When she sees someone doing something wrong, she will write it down, and after a while she will stop the match. Tenchi said and the group nodded. Kakashi looked over at Sasuke, who was standing a little behind Tenchi, brooding again. What about him? Kakashi asked and Tenchi's grin became really sadistic. Either I or you get to teach him to follow orders and not attack fellow Konoha nuns when not in a sparring match. Tenchi said and Kakashi's eyes twinkled in amusement. Well then, just because of his comment about Sakura, I think you should have the honor. Kakashi said and Tenchi nodded before turning to Sasuke. Alright Sasuke-kun. We will hold our spar after they have finished theirs. Until then you either sit still and watch, or you prepare for our spar. He said. Without a word, Sasuke turned around and walked over to the backpack he had brought with him. Now, begin, Ino yelled, and Naruto charged Shikamaru, who yawned and formed the seals for his family, but Naruto intercepted him by throwing a kunai towards him. Shikamaru dodged, while Naruto did a hand seal and a cage bunshin pooped out next to him. Shikamaru looked lazily at the clone before sending his shadow towards Naruto again. This time, Naruto didn't dodge, but was caught. Shikamaru smiled slightly and began to walk towards the same tree he knocked out Ino with, when suddenly he heard running and felt a kunai against his neck. Sorry Shikamaru, but I won. Naruto said, smilingly. Shikamaru looked behind him and saw that the clone Naruto had made was standing behind him. Very good Naruto, but now I have you both. Shikamaru said and his shadow captured the clone as well. Damn it. Naruto cursed while Shikamaru thought for a bit before pulling out a kunai. Naruto and clone Naruto copied his movements. Sorry Naruto. Shikamaru said and threw the kunai. The two Narutos also threw their kunai mirroring where Shikamaru had thrown his. But unfortunately for Naruto, Shikamaru had aimed the throw so that he was safe, but the kunai grazed each other and changed course slightly. That caused Naruto to be hit with a kunai in the chest while the clone poofed away, while Naruto was falling to the ground after being released by the shadow. Tenchi was instantly at Naruto's side, pulling out the kunai and checking if it was a serious wound. Naruto looked slightly scared, but then Tenchi smiled. Don't worry Naruto. You'll be fine. You are already almost healed up. Luckily the kunai didn't go too deep. Tenchi said and Naruto nodded. Tenchi picked him up and carried him over to a concerned-looking Ino. Rest here Naruto. Winner Shikamaru. Tenchi said. Shikamaru was about to say, troublesome, but thought better of it. Sakura looked at Choji, who was busy stuffing his face. How disturbing. It's almost worse than seeing Naruto eat ramen. Sakura thought, and almost shuddered when a pack of chips vanished disturbingly fast. If you aren't attacking, then I am. Sakura yelled and threw some shuriken at Choji, who blocked them, with his bag of chips. Sakura's sweat dropped at that, before she started thinking about how she should do this. Ah, I know. Doden. Doryuaheki. Sakura said, jumped, did the seals and spat out the mud. Instead of spreading it around herself, she spread it around Choji. The wall rose up and Choji was surrounded by a wall of earth. He looked around, but all he saw was the wall. Sakura was standing on top of the wall. She smiled and let her chakra stop holding the wall up, and it collapsed. On poor Choji. He couldn't do anything to get away from the avalanche that rushed towards him, and right before he was buried, Kakashi appeared next to him, grabbing Choji and reappearing next to Ino, and a still recovering Naruto. Well Sakura, try not to overdo it like that next time. Kakashi said, and Sakura scratched her head while sticking her tongue out playfully. Tenchi looked at Kakashi. You are one to talk. Shikamaru nearly killed Naruto with that kunai. Tenchi said and Sakura looked at Naruto, gasped when she saw the bloody shirt and rushed over to him. Naruto, you alright? She asked and he nodded slightly. Naruto heals fast, and the wound wasn't that serious anyway. He'll be fine. Tenchi said and Sakura looked relieved. Ino looked at Naruto, before looking at her notes. They were blank. Oh, I forgot to look for faults. Ino said, and Tenchi sighed while rubbing his temples. I see. It's too late now then. All right, Sasuke-kun. It is your time, Tenchi said, and Sasuke grumbled a little. Anyone could hear that. Kun was spoken in a mocking manner. Sasuke walked into the middle of the clearing and stood in the same pose he had against Naruto, complete with his look of arrogance. His eyes literally scream, I don't care if you are a Junin. I'll beat you. Tenchi sighed and got into his own stance. He stood with his right foot towards Sasuke, had his feet at shoulder width, the right foot slightly more bent than the left, leaning him a little forward. His right arm was bent in front of him, his left behind him. Think of Goku's fighting stance in DBZ. Sasuke focused on his opponent and threw 2 shuriken just to test Tenchi. The shuriken was quickly caught. Nice of you to test me, Sasuke-kun, but I think you need to work a little harder. Tenchi said and threw the shuriken back. Sasuke blocked and looked at Tenchi. He stood with his arms crossed. You are an arrogant Sasuke-kun. I intend to teach you that even though you are from the Uchiha clan, you won't get strong just because of your bloodline. Strength isn't given, it is earned. A good ninja takes any opponent seriously. Now come, Tenchi said, and Sasuke growled before charging. Lesson 1. Taijutsu. Tenchi said, his eyes turning blue. Tenchi, aren't that a little overboard? Kakashi asked, a little concerned for Sasuke's health. What do you mean? I don't think Sasuke-kun wants me to hold back, Tenchi said while looking at Kakashi. Sasuke grabbed the chance and kicked Tenchi in the head, but Tenchi caught his kick, grabbed Sasuke's leg and started swinging him around in a circle. Nice to see you, Sasuke-kun. Enjoying yourself? Tenchi asked before letting go. The result was a seething Sasuke flying towards a tree. He flipped and landed on the tree vertically, but since he hadn't learned tree walk, he didn't stick to the tree. He dropped to the ground, did a handspring and launched several shuriken towards Tenchi. Immediately afterwards he started making seals. Kaden. Hausenka no. He yelled and shot out a dozen fireballs towards Tenchi. Tenchi caught the shuriken and jumped out of the way of the fireballs. Here, you drop these, Tenchi said and launched the shuriken back towards Sasuke. They landed around him and he jumped away, in case Tenchi had added a gift. That was a mistake, since Tenchi had anticipated that and was now right behind Sasuke. Sasuke didn't know this, since Tenchi moved too fast and stealthily. Sasuke looked around for a while but Tenchi kept out of his vision. Then suddenly Sasuke felt a hand clamp on his shoulder. Hello, Sasuke-kun. Looking for me? Tenchi asked, released Sasuke and looked curiously at him. Sasuke growled and launched himself towards the Junin, and tried to punch him with his right hand. Tenchi answered by using his left hand to punch Sasuke's right. Sasuke tried to punch with his left, but it was met by Tenchi's right. Sasuke looked at his hands, they were bruised, and his knuckles hurt. Tenchi decided to kick Sasuke and caught him in the chest, sending Sasuke flying backwards again. He flipped, landed on his feet and tried to move away, but Tenchi was on him. Punching Sasuke in his stomach, almost knocking the breath out of the boy, then sweeping away his feet from under him and slamming his fists into Sasuke's chest. He landed heavily on the ground, panting hard. He looked at Tenchi, who was walking away. Lesson 2. Ninjutsu. Kaden. Gukaku no, Tenchi said, spun around and a ball of fire flew from him towards Sasuke. He managed to jump away, but only barely. What's up with this Junin? He's trying to kill me, Sasuke thought, dodging another Gukaku. He decided to attack back and formed the seals for the same. Both Sasuke and Tenchi called out, Kaden, Gukaku no, at the same time. The 2 fireballs met in the middle. At first it looked like they were equal in power, but then Sasuke got overpowered and he had to dodge. Lesson 3. Genjutsu. Tenchi said and looked at Sasuke. Sasuke met his gaze and suddenly saw himself dying in horrible ways. He collapsed and started shivering. You see, Sasuke. Being a Uchiha isn't enough. Being a genius isn't enough. Thinking you can do everything alone won't work. Treating your fellow Konoha ninjas like you did earlier won't make you strong. Lesson finished. Tenchi said, turned around and walked back to the others. Sasuke couldn't stop shivering. Sakura and Ino looked at the spar, and didn't feel any remorse about Tenchi effectively kicking Sasuke around. They actually smiled when Tenchi hid behind Sasuke. Ha! The bastard is finally getting what he deserves. He hasn't been able to do anything to Tenchi-sensei. Naruto said, and Ino and Sakura nodded. I wonder how Sasuke reacts when he finds out that Tenchi isn't using anywhere near his true power. Kakashi said curiously. Then Sasuke collapsed and started shivering. Huh, what did sensei do? Naruto asked. I don't know. But he used a genjutsu, that's for sure. Sasuke doesn't seem too happy. Kakashi replied. Tenchi walked over and smiled slightly. If you were wondering, that was a Kanashibari without me paralyzing him. Tenchi said, and Kakashi looked at Sasuke, who was still shaking. I still think you went a little overboard. But at least he should know that he isn't as superior as he thinks now. Kakashi said, and Tenchi smiled. Yeah, if he is smart, that is. Now that Sasuke-kun has stopped shaking, I think we should end today's training. See you three next Saturday, unless we have a mission. Then I'll see you sometime later. Tenchi said cheerfully to Team 10, who nodded. They looked slightly afraid of the Junin though. Come on Naruto, Sakura, Ino. Tenchi said and started walking away. The three genin followed, chatting about how Sasuke had been beaten without much effort. Okay, since that was really just sufficient for a warm-up, I think that we should train a bit now. Begin with laps. Tenchi ordered. Naruto, Sakura and Ino began to run, while Tenchi observed. After a while, he sensed someone coming, and turned to see Rin walking towards them. A warm feeling suddenly appeared in his chest area. Huh, this feeling again. What is that? And why do I get it when I look at Rin? Tenchi thought. He was really confused. Ever since he came back, he had been feeling weird around Rin. Not uncomfortable, just weird. It was kind of weird that he didn't mind. He would also catch himself staring at her, sometimes her body, but mostly her face. Ever since he woke up with her on his chest on that camping trip, he would sometimes see her face. Almost like a photo stuck to his eye. I have to figure out what's wrong with me. Tenchi thought and waved when Rin waved to him. So, how was it to train with Kakashi's kids? Rin asked when she reached him. Tenchi gave a short laugh. Kakashi was late, as usual, so I decided to have the kids spar. Naruto against Choji, Ino against Shikamaru and Sakura against Sasuke. Naruto won pretty easily. Ino lost because of Shikamaru's planning, but Sakura, she lost against Sasuke. Not surprisingly, since she held back and he went pretty much all out, but, Tenchi said but didn't continue. Instead he turned and watched the kids run. But what? Rin questioned curiously. After the spar, Sasuke started verbally abusing Sakura. She was crushed. I could practically see how her and Ino's feelings for the bastard just vanished. But it worries me. That boy, he will destroy more than he should. He already has. Tenchi said and sighed. Rin gawked at Tenchi before turning to look at Sakura. She seems fine though. Rin said, and indeed Sakura didn't look like she had been heartbroken the same day. Quite the opposite actually, she looked happy, and was talking and joking with her two teammates. I don't know what to think about it, and to be honest, I have no idea how to handle feelings like that. I don't even know how to know when someone is in love or not. The result of no childhood or normal upbringing, I suppose. Tenchi said and shrugged. Rin looked at him before turning back to watch her daughter. So, he doesn't know, Rin thought sadly. She didn't let it show though. Sakura is a smart girl, Ino too. They will either figure it out, or ask for help. Let's just hope they don't ask you, right? Rin said, and Tenchi huffed while crossing his arms. Okay you three. I think we should call it a day. Take the rest of the day off, and I'll see you on Monday. Tenchi said. Naruto, Sakura and Ino whooped in joy at getting a day off and ran towards Konoha. Rin turned to Tenchi and looked like she was about to say something. Tenchi noticed and looked at her, and found himself staring again. So beautiful, what the? Why am I thinking like that? Tenchi thought and tried to stop staring. He wasn't successful. Soon he was staring again, the weird feeling back with a vengeance. Rin noticed him staring and blushed a deep crimson. What? Is there something on my face? She asked. Tenchi shook his head. No, your face is pretty as usual. He said. They both blushed when they heard what he said. I have to go now. Sakura probably wants dinner soon. See you later. Rin said and hurried away. Tenchi stared after her, admiring how her body moved as she ran. He shook himself and headed home. Tenchi lay in his bed, thinking about his feelings for Rin. They confused him to no end, he just couldn't figure them out. Why was he feeling like that for her? It couldn't be love, could it? Did he really start to feel like that for Rin? Wasn't that wrong? After all, she was 11 years older than him, although he knew several other couples that had just as much of an age difference, and that didn't seem to get in the way of their love. But his sister. Adoptive and unofficial sister, but still. Tenchi had never been so confused before, so he did the only thing he could think of, go and seek help. From who else but the wisest man he knew, Sandaime Hokage. So, you wanted my advice about something? Sandaime said and Tenchi nodded. They were in the Hokage mansion, sitting in the living room, Tenchi, Sandaime and Sandaime's wife, Kujiki. Kujiki was a nice lady, slightly wrinkled, graying hair and sparkling eyes, filled with humor. Hi, actually advice from the both of you. Tenchi said and looked between Sandaime and Kujiki, both of them raised an eyebrow each. Oh, and what kind of problem do you have, my young friend? Kujiki asked curiously. I have been getting weird feelings for Rin. I don't know what it is, but it's confusing. Tenchi said and Kujiki and Sandaime looked at each other before turning to Tenchi. Isn't Rin your sister? Kujiki asked. Tenchi shook his head. No, not really. When we were younger, Rin and I were really close, we spent a lot of time together. I spent more time with her than I did with Kakashi, Obito, or even Yondaime-sama. Rin and I used to take care of each other, and Obito once said we were like brother and sister, so I started calling her that. She didn't like it at first, but eventually started calling me brother. It just kind of stuck past childish nicknames. Tenchi explained and Sandaime and Kujiki nodded thoughtfully. So, you are just good friends that call each other siblings. Sandaime said, more a statement than a question, but Tenchi nodded anyway. What kind of feelings are you having then? What do they feel like? Kujiki asked. Tenchi thought for a bit before responding. He pictured Rin in his mind, feeling the strange feeling again. It feels like, when I look at her, all other things are unimportant and small. Sometimes it is like nothing else but me and her exist. I have to force myself to look away and focus on other things. When we were training Naruto, Sakura and Ino, half the time I wasn't able to focus and would stare at Rin, almost lost in her beauty. I feel warm, uneasy, jumpy, slightly uncomfortable but also strangely comfortable and at peace when I am with her. Another thing I cannot understand is that I remember having similar feelings for her when we were younger, although on a much smaller scale. Back then I thought that was how a brother felt for his sister, but brothers don't feel like their life isn't complete without their sister, right? That is how I feel when Rin leaves. It feels like something is twisting in my chest, and I want to call out to her and tell her to stay. Tenchi said, and looked down on the floor, unsure what all that meant. What he didn't see were the amused and thoughtful expressions on Sandaime and Kujiki's faces. Tenchi, I think you should stop calling Rin your sister. Sandaime said calmly after a little moment of thoughtful silence went by. That confused Tenchi though. Why? Was the simple question that came from him. Because you are in love with her. Kujiki said and Sandame nodded, a smile on his face. Tenchi stared between them, not sure if he heard them right. Then he became confused again. How is that possible? Tenchi asked and Sandame smiled even wider at him. From what you told us, you have loved her for a long time. Ever since Obito died. Sandame explained and Kujiki nodded in agreement. Tenchi, I can see that you have never learned about things like this. What you should know is that true love does not know time or age. True love doesn't wait until people are ready. True love, although difficult to identify until you see it for yourself, lasts a lifetime. Tenchi, I can tell that you love Rin, that you have true love for her. You are still like a child when it comes to things like this, and a child that has true love for someone can't hide it. I can see it when you speak of Rin, when you think about her. It is a sparkle in your eyes. That alone speaks volumes. Kujiki said and Tenchi looked at her before sighing and putting his face in his hands. But what am I supposed to do? Okay, I love her, but am I supposed to just tell her that? Tenchi asked, annoyed that he knew so little about this. Something like that. Try to find out if she loves you back. If she does, then tell. Sandame said and Tenchi nodded slowly. All right, he said. Sandame seemed to get an idea, and turned to his wife. Why don't you use your questioning skills to see if Rin loves Tenchi? Sandame asked. Questioning skills? Tenchi asked and Kujiki smiled proudly. I was once a very good interrogator for Anbu. If Rin loves you, then I can find out. She said and Tenchi looked at her. I don't want Rin to be interrogated. I am sorry, but I think I have to find out for myself. But thank you for your advice and help. He said, stood up and bowed. Sandame and Kujiki stood up as well. No problem, anything for a friend. Sandame and Kujiki replied. Naruto, Sakura and Ino were sitting at the dinner table in the Haruno residence. Rin was in the kitchen, making dinner. The three genin were chatting about how this week had been. I can't wait to do missions. I'm sure we will be awesome. Naruto said loudly and the two girls nodded. Yeah, with all the training we have done, we should be ready for missions now. Ino said. Don't say that, Ino-chan. It all depends on the mission. Rin said while carrying the food in. What do you mean, Mom? Sakura asked and Rin sighed. Missions when you start as a ninja are easy, but after a while you will start risking your lives on every mission. Even someone as strong as Tenchi risks his life on missions. You can never be prepared enough for that. Rin said and the three genin looked at her. She had gotten a depressed, almost fearful expression when she mentioned Tenchi. They ate in silence after that, until Naruto got tired of it. The silence, not eating, since he loved Rin's cooking. That bastard. Naruto suddenly blurted out. Sakura, Ino and Rin wondered what he was talking about. Who? They asked. Sasuke. That bastard dares talk about Sakura-chan and Ino-chan that way. I am glad Tenchi-asen kicked his ass, I only wish he would have beat Sasuke a bit more. Naruto growled, and glared at his plate. That made him miss the blush that spread over Sakura and Ino's face. Thank you, Naruto, they both thought, amazingly at the same time. Rin noticed the blushing girls though, and suddenly had an idea. So, Naruto, what kind of girls do you like? Rin asked and chuckled when Sakura and Ino glared at her a bit before looking curiously at Naruto. Naruto stared at Rin and when he saw that all eyes were on him, he blushed and looked down on his plate and mumbled something. What? I can't hear you. Rin teased and Naruto blushed even deeper. I like girls that are smart, funny, pretty and strong. I like girls that can take care of themselves, but most of all, I like girls that like and acknowledge me for who I am, and don't see me as the Kyuubi. Naruto said and Rin, Sakura and Ino looked at him, a little surprised. He had only mentioned looks once. Interesting. Rin thought, maybe he likes me. That wouldn't be so bad, he isn't as good looking as Sasuke, but he is a much better person. Sakura and Ino thought and smiled slightly, imagining themselves with Naruto. As long as he dumps that old suit. They both thought and looked at the orange clothes Naruto wore. They were several years old. He hasn't picked up the new ones yet. So, what about you two? Rin asked and turned to Sakura and Ino. Both of them blushed and looked down. Hey, I told you what I liked. Now it's your turn, Naruto said, crossing his arms. Sakura, why don't you go first? Rin said, and Sakura glared at her mother, thinking, I'll get you for this. I used to like Sasuke, but now I realize he isn't what I thought he was. I was in love with what I thought Sasuke was. Sakura said, and Rin looked at her. What did you think he was then? Rin asked. Strong, funny, cute and handsome. Sakura said, and Ino nodded before continuing. A good ninja, kind, thoughtful and loving. Lots of humor and brightness. She said, and Sakura nodded. They like the same things then. If I didn't know better, they just described Naruto. At least how he will be when he gets his new clothes and stops eating ramen all the time. Rin thought and smiled at the three genin. Can you tell me who you like? She asked innocently. Naruto. Sakura and Ino stared at her, opening and closing their mouths without any sound coming. Oh, come on. The way you spoke, you have someone in mind already. Here, write the names down on a piece of paper. Rin said, and handed out a magically appearing piece of paper to each of the genin. They were hesitant, but then began to write. After they were finished, Rin looked at the names. Ino. Likes. Naruto. Sakura. Likes. Naruto. Naruto. Likes. Sakura-chan and Ino-chan. Oh, this is interesting. Very interesting. Rin thought and grinned a bit. Okay. So Ino and Sakura. Why him? Rin said and pointed to the notes. Sakura and Ino blushed and looked at each other. I don't really know. I guess. Sakura began. I saw how great he is, and how much he fits what I want in a boyfriend. Ino finished. And what about your choice, Naruto? Rin asked. They are both so pretty, no, beautiful, they are kind, real funny to be around. They are smarter than me, and really strong as well. It hurts like hell when they hit me. And they don't hate me. Naruto said and blushed. Rin looked at Sakura and Ino, and could have sworn that their jaws were very close to hitting the table. He likes us. Ino and Sakura thought and looked at each other. I see. Well then, it seems we have a little drama here. Rin said and grinned widely. Naruto looked at her, confused, while Sakura and Ino had a look of understanding, and slight horror on their faces. She isn't, they thought, but Rin interrupted. I mean, here we have a boy in love with his two teammates, and his two teammates both are in love with him. Rin said and smiled widely. Naruto's eyes were about to pop out of his skull. What? You two, like, me. Naruto stammered, looking at Sakura and Ino, both of them blushed and nodded, before blushing even deeper. Thud. Naruto had fainted. Naruto-kun. Both Sakura and Ino yelled and rushed to help him off the floor. This would be funny to watch, but I have someone to meet. See you three love birds later. Rin said and walked out, laughing at the two blushing faces. Unknown to the three females, Naruto and Kyuubi were having a conversation. Naruto was sitting in front of Kyuubi's cage, while Kyuubi lay inside. Damn Kit. You are a babe magnet. Two hot females are lusting after you. Here is my advice. Take them both. Kyuubi said and laughed loudly. Okay. Stupid fox, first of all, they aren't lusting after me, they are in love with me. That is much better. Secondly, I'm not going to take them. Naruto said and Kyuubi growled slightly. As you wish it. Anyway, it's time to wake up and meet your girlfriends. Kyuubi said and Naruto woke up. When Naruto woke up, the first thing he saw was the concerned faces of both Sakura and Ino. Did I die and end up in heaven? Was the first thing Naruto said. When they heard that, Sakura and Ino blushed. No Naruto-kun. You passed out. Sakura said, hesitating slightly on the kun suffix. Are you alright? Ino asked and Naruto nodded. Never been better, he said and sat up. So, what now? He asked and the girls looked at each other before turning to him. Choose. They said. Unknown to Naruto, Sakura and Ino had argued over who he liked the most. They had come to the agreement that he should choose who he liked most. Choose what? Naruto asked. Which one of us do you like the most? Sakura and Ino practically yelled, scaring Naruto. He said and swallowed before beginning to think. Okay. Who do I like the most? Sakura is smartest, but Ino is stronger. They are both so cute, pretty and beautiful, and I like being around them both. What to do? I don't like any of them more than the other. He thought frantically. I don't know. I think I like you both just as much. He said. Sakura and Ino looked at him before turning to each other with fire in their eyes. I'm not going to lose to you. They both yelled and before Naruto could react, they grabbed a hand each and were leaning against him, blinking their eyes seductively up at him. Naruto said and swallowed nervously. Help, he thought but none came. Meanwhile, Rin had arrived at the bar she was heading for. There she met two of her best friends, Kurenai and Anko. Yo Rin, how are you? Anko yelled while waving. Hello Anko-chan, Kurenai-chan. I'm fine. Just had an interesting discovery. Rin said and sat down next to her two friends. Oh, care to fill us in? Kurenai asked, and Rin nodded. She then told Kurenai and Anko about how she had watched as Naruto, Sakura and Ino grew closer, and finally how they admitted their feelings at the dinner table. Wow, a threesome at that age. The boy must have a lot of potential then. Anko said and Kurenai shook her head at her friend's antics. So, you think their feelings are real, or just crushes? Kurenai asked. Rin thought for a bit before smiling. I think they are real. The way they look at each other, it reminds me of how I used to look at Cashew, and how I find myself looking at Tenchi. Rin said. Have you told him yet? Anko asked and Rin shook her head. I want to, but I'm afraid of how he will react. I know I don't see him as my brother, but what if he sees me as his sister still? I couldn't bear it if he told me that. Rin said sadly. You really love him? Kurenai asked and Rin nodded. Yeah, just as I loved Cashew. Those two, I don't feel any different about them. They both hold such large parts of my heart. Rin said, a slight smile on her face. You don't deserve to be alone, Rin. You should tell him, or just take him. Anko said, a perverted grin appearing on her face. I can't just take him. I don't want him just for sex, I want him to be with me, love me like a boyfriend or husband should. Not just in bed, Rin said angrily and Anko waved her hands defensively. Well, if you like, I could use it to find out how he feels about you. Kurenai said and Rin stared at her. Huh, but, she said but didn't continue. But what? That way you would know if he loves you or not. I think it's a great idea. Come on Kurenai, Anko said loudly and jumped up. Kurenai smiled and got up as well. The two of them started to walk away, but Rin ran up to them. You aren't going to try and stop us, are you? We'll just do it sometime later. Anko said confidently. Rin shook her head and smiled shyly. No, I won't stop you, I want to hear for myself. She said. Anko grinned at her. Good girl, she said and the three of them headed towards Tenchi's apartment. Tenchi was home, working on a scroll when suddenly he got an irresistible urge to talk. About Rin and how he felt about her. Rin, Anko and Kurenai had snuck into his apartment, and concealed themselves in a. Then Kurenai had used a Tenchi that got him talking. They listened as he spoke of how he felt for Rin. He spoke just as if he was speaking with a good friend of his. The rather one-sided conversation was very like the conversation Tenchi had with Sandaime and his wife. And when Sandaime-sama told me I love her, I felt relieved. Like a huge weight was lifted from my shoulders. The only thing is that I don't know how to find out if Rin loves me back. Tenchi said, and Rin nearly rushed over to him, but Anko held her back. No, let's hear some more. Anko hissed. Rin nodded slowly. I read something about love when I got back from Sandaime-sama. The book said that two people in love are happy together, that their lives complete each other. I found myself wanting that with Rin. I guess Sandaime-sama and Kujiki-sama were right. I really love Rin, Tenchi said. Kurenai and Anko had huge smiles on their faces, while Rin had a dreamy look. She had just heard the one she loves confess his love for her. But before she could move towards him, Kurenai and Anko had grabbed her and dragged her out of the apartment. Why did you do that? Rin asked angrily. You have to go home and think it over if you want to be together with him. Kurenai said, and Anko nodded. You two love each other, but you should at least think it over until tomorrow. Then you can tell him. Anko said. Rin was about to protest, but her two friends didn't want to hear it. Back in the apartment, Tenchi snapped out of it and looked around. Huh, what the? Oh well, he thought, and went back to the scroll. It was titled, How to Master the Heavenly Light. It was Monday and Tenchi stood in front of three very proud genin. They were in front of the Hokage Tower, and soon they would get their first mission. Why did Naruto, Sakura and Ino look so proud? They wore their new clothes. Naruto wore his new shoes, the black pair of pants with the red fire on. He wore a fishnet shirt under a black jacket with a golden kyubi. Sakura wore her dark green dress while Ino wore her dark blue outfit. When Sakura and Ino had met Naruto and Tenchi, the three genin hadn't been able to stop staring. Sakura and Ino thought how good Naruto looked in dark clothes, while Naruto nodded to himself. Yep, you two look stunning in those clothes. Naruto said, and Sakura and Ino blushed. Thank you, Naruto-kun. Sakura said. You look good too, Naruto-kun. Ino said, and this time Naruto blushed. Tenchi looked between his students, smiling. He had heard from Naruto that they were in love. Sakura and Ino had used Sunday to try and get Naruto to think one of them was better than the other. They hadn't been able to convince him, since he was, by now, madly in love with them both. It's so frustrating. I don't know what to do. Naruto had said, and Tenchi knew exactly what he meant. Rin had avoided Tenchi that whole Sunday, and he, who had wanted to talk to her about his feelings, couldn't do anything else than wait until she wanted to speak with him. Instead, he had used his day off to go and pick up Naruto's clothes and the weapons for the three genin. Now Tenchi was hiding something behind his back. Okay, listen up, love birds. I have something for you here. Tenchi said, and handed a wrapped package to each of the genin. Naruto's was longer than Sakura and Ino's, but theirs was broader. What is this? They asked. Open them, Tenchi said, and the kids eagerly ripped off the wrapping. Naruto found himself holding a black katana, shortened so it fit him. Sakura and Ino each held two. Are these for us? Naruto asked, and Tenchi nodded. Come on, strap them on and look at the blades. Tenchi urged. Naruto found a belt in the wrapping and used it to strap the katana to his back, while Sakura and Ino used the belt that there hung from and fastened them so that the blades were on their thighs under the flap of their dress, and the handles of the were on their hips. Only the handles were visible, unless the girls jumped or something. Good, Sakura and Ino. Right where I thought the blades should be. That way they won't be in the way, and are somewhat concealed. Tenchi praised, and the two girls beamed. Then Naruto pulled out his blade. The handle of Naruto's katana was a black traditional katana handle. The blade had a black dull side, while the blade side was metallic. The engraving was lined with red so that it was easy to read. Deep in the mountain a spiral spring field lies, Naruto read. Ino and Sakura also examined their blades. The handles were the same as Naruto's, and the blades were similar also, only much shorter. The engraving was the same. What does that mean? Sakura asked. I had them engrave that to show that you three are teammates and always will be. It comes from your family names. Deep in the mountain is from Yamanaka, Spiral is from Uzumaki and Spring Field is from Haruno. Tenchi said smilingly. The three genin looked at him, before looking at each other and then at their blades. As one they bowed. Thank you so much, they said, and Tenchi chuckled. No problem. Now come on, we are going to get a mission, finish it fast, and I'm going to teach you how to use those. That will be our main focus for the rest of the week, and until you show me you can do your two perfectly, I won't teach you anything new. Tenchi said and walked into the Hokage Tower. That was a D rank mission. Naruto yelled. They had just finished painting an old lady's house. Tenchi, who had been sleeping in a tree nearby throughout the mission, smiled and nodded. Yep, that was a D rank mission. Stupid, right? He said, and Naruto glared. Why do we have to do missions like that? Ino grumbled. So that I can train you more, but you can still be useful to the village. Don't worry, it will only be for a short while. Now come on, Tenchi said and walked towards their training field. He then remembered to report in, and sent a Kage Bunshin to do that. They arrived in the training area and Tenchi walked over to 3 vertical logs, each just as high as the genin. For starters, you are going to give me your new blades and do your regular warm-up. Tenchi said, and the genin nodded. They gave Tenchi their blades and began to run, do push-ups, sit-ups, squats, punch and kick logs. When they were finished, they stood to attention in front of Tenchi again. He returned their blades. Naruto, Sakura and Ino nearly dropped them though. What did you do? They are so heavy. Sakura complained. I activated something called a gravitational tag that is inside them. That increases the gravitational pull on something. Now, each of you take a log each and give me 500 slashed upwards, 500 downwards, 500 vertical from left to right, 500 from right to left, 500 from bottom right to top left, 500 from top left to bottom right, 500 from bottom left to top right, 500 from top right to bottom left, and 500 stabs. And yes, Sakura and Ino, I mean with each blade and each arm. Also, don't use chakra to help. Tenchi said. The 3 genin stared at him as if he was crazy, but when they saw he wasn't kidding, they started with the exercise. How is this going to help? Sakura huffed out. I don't know. Ino replied. This will probably help us fight with our blades. Naruto said. They had been at it for half an hour, and to them it felt like their arms would fall off. That's right. This builds strength, and allows you to feel how your blades flow. I don't know much about how to fight with a sword, but what I know is that to be a good fighter, you need to be familiar with your weapon. This way, you and your blades get to know each other. Tenchi said happily. Unknown to the genin, he was training too. Having tripled his weights, he had trouble moving, and was running, switching between regular running and running on his hands. When he saw that Naruto had begun his stabs, Tenchi stopped running and started doing push-ups, sit-ups, squats, punches and kicks. He did 100 of each exercise before stopping and starting on the next. When he was done with his kicks, he began with push-ups again. When he was nearly finished with the second round of kicks, he noticed that Naruto, Sakura and Ino were finished. Finishing up his exercise, he turned to them and smiled. Tired? He asked, and they nodded. Okay, I am going to teach you how to release the tags on your blades. Hold them firmly in your hands and form the ram seal. Then say, Kai, undo, cancel, Tenchi said. The 3 genin did, and instantly their blades felt much lighter. Just as with your weights, only do that when you have to. To activate the tags, form the ram seal again and pump your chakra into the blade. You should see a tag inside the blade. Direct your chakra there and the tag will activate. After I have taught you a bit more about handling your blades, I will teach you more about chakra in the blades. For now, practice activating and deactivating the tags. Tenchi said. For the next half an hour, the 3 genin only activated and deactivated the tags, several times. Then Tenchi stopped them. Okay, good. For the rest of the training today, I will show you a basic attack pattern, called a kata. This will be different for Naruto and you girls. Tenchi said and made a kage bunshin. The clone went with Naruto while the original stayed with Sakura and Ino. With Naruto. Okay Naruto, the basics of how to use a katana is to find a weak spot in your enemy and attack that. You see, a katana is deadly when it cuts and stabs. If you train enough, you can easily kill someone with a katana. The clone explained and Naruto nodded. Okay, first I want you to practice something called iijutsu. That is a technique where you draw your sword and attack at the same moment. There are several versions, depending on how you carry your sword. Clone Tenchi said and pulled out a katana of his own. This is Natsuiboshi. My katana. You should name your sword as well. The clone said and strapped the katana on his back. Naruto looked at his katana and saw the engraving. I'll name you I. Naruto said. Love. That is a good name. Now pay attention. When you practice iijutsu, the point is to draw the sword so fast and accurately that the enemy can't react. To do that, you press the sword towards the front of the sheath while you draw. I can't explain it in detail, since you have to learn to do it yourself. Here, watch, Clone Tenchi said, walking up to a tree. Suddenly a flash came and a huge gash was on the tree. Naruto stared at the kage bunshin that now stood with its katana in its hand. That was my iijutsu, Clone Tenchi said, and Naruto looked really eager to be able to do the same. Here, I'll show you slowly. Clone Tenchi said, and drew his blade again. Naruto saw how the blade was pressed against the sheath and how the arc of the blade was when it left the sheath. Okay, now you try. Clone Tenchi said, and Naruto ran up to the tree. With Tenchi and the girls. Okay girls. You two have 2 blades each. Your blades are called wakizashi. Basically a wakizashi is a short sword. The reason you have 2, is that then you can block an attack with one of the blades and strike with the other. Tenchi said, and Sakura and Ino nodded eagerly. As I said, I don't know much about fighting with a sword, but I can teach you the basics. First, practice how to draw your blades quickly. The point is that you should be able to draw so that you can be ready to fight and or block an incoming attack in moments. Tenchi said. The girls nodded and placed their hands on their blades. Wait. Rearrange your hands so that when you draw, your blades are along your lower arm. That way, it will be easier to draw, and easier to have strength in the blade. When you get better, you can see if the situation calls you to draw like that, or not. Tenchi said. The girls did as he said, and for the next 45 minutes they changed between drawings so that they held the blades, normally, and so that they held them in the reverse way Tenchi instructed. Okay. Good. I think you can draw your blades fast enough now. I think it is time I showed you the only kata I know for dual blades. Tenchi said, and for the next hour and a half, he showed and helped the girls with the kata, correcting them when they made mistakes, and guiding them. Okay. I think that is enough for now girls. Ah. Good. Naruto is here. Tenchi said, and the girls looked up as Naruto walked towards them, looking tired. Okay. You 3 have shown great progress with your blades. I did something right when I bought those blades. Oh, by the way. Ino, Sakura, have you 2 thought up names for your blades? Tenchi asked. Do they have to have individual names? Sakura asked, and Tenchi shook his head. No, since a dual wakizashi pair is like twins, so you can give them a family name. Tenchi replied. Okay, I have decided. I am naming my wakizashi, Sunshine. From Naruto-kun's hair. Ino said, and Naruto blushed. I'm naming my Tenkan, Heaven Sword. From Naruto-kun's eye color. Sakura said, and Naruto turned so red, Tenchi thought Naruto had started bleeding. What about you Naruto-kun? Sakura asked. My katana is called I. Because I love Sakura-chan and Ino-chan, Naruto said, and this time it was the girls that blushed. You heard that, he said my name first. Sakura said, like it was the most important thing in the world. That doesn't mean he loves you more than me, forehead girl. Ino shot right back. Pig. Forehead. Pig. Forehead. Pig. Forehead. Pig. Forehead. Shut up. Tenchi roared, cutting the girls off. They looked slightly scared when they looked at him. What's up with that? Why are you arguing like that? Tenchi half yelled, clearly pissed off. Because, Ino and Sakura stammered. I love them both, and they haven't stopped arguing about who I love more since. Naruto explained. Ah, so that's it. Well, why don't you choose them? Tenchi asked. Because I love them both the same. I don't love either of them more than the other. Naruto yelled, waving his arms in the air, giving the impression that he was trying to fly. Okay, Tenchi said and turned to the girls. Why don't you two share then? Tenchi asked. Was the rather intelligent question from the three genin. I mean, why don't both Sakura and Ino date Naruto together? I read about it once. If you love each other enough, it shouldn't be a problem. Tenchi said and the three genin looked at each other. Then huge grins came on Sakura and Ino's faces before they walked up to Naruto, Ino on his left, Sakura on his right. The two girls grabbed an arm each and leaned against Naruto, resting their heads on his shoulders. They looked up at him, blinking their eyes seductively. What do you call Naruto-kun? Sakura asked. Are you man enough to date us both? Ino asked and Naruto had to swallow before getting a blissful smile on his face. You go Kit. Kyuubi roared and Tenchi almost broke down laughing at that. If you two want to, then I don't have anything against that. I have to be the luckiest guy alive to have two girlfriends. Naruto said and Sakura and Ino smiled happily. Okay. I hate to interrupt this tender moment, but I have someone I have to introduce to you three. Tenchi said and turned to a person who stood behind him. This is Hayate. He is a sword master, and will be teaching you how to use your blades. Tenchi said and a sick-looking Junin stopped beside him. Hello cough. Nice to meet you. Hayate said he was coughing a lot. Hello sensei. The three genin greeted, uncertain if the Junin was okay. Hayate will teach you every day for a while, along with me. We will coordinate our teachings. You have the rest of the day off. I suggest you three go and enjoy yourselves. Tenchi said and the three genin started walking towards Ichiraku Ramen, but Hayate stopped Naruto. I see that you have two girlfriends. Cough congratulations, you are a very lucky cough guy. Haraka. I have a reservation for a cough restaurant in Konoha, but my date got a mission. Enjoy. Hayate said and handed Naruto a note. Thank you very much sensei. Naruto said happily and ran after Sakura and Ino. Nice. Hayate said and Tenchi nodded. Yeah, they are. Thanks by the way, for teaching them. I really suck at sword fighting. Tenchi said and Hayate looked at him. Then Waiko, do you have a katana ka? Hayate asked. A gift. Tenchi simply replied. Hayate didn't ask anything else. So, where is Naruto-kun? Ino asked, hugging Naruto's arm tightly. Hayate-sensei gave me this. Naruto replied and showed the girls the reservation slip. The girls squealed when they saw it. That is a great restaurant. When is the reservation for? Sakura asked excitedly. 8 o'clock. Naruto replied. Come get me 7:30 then. Sakura said, gave Naruto a kiss on the cheek and ran home. Pick me up too, will you be Naruto-kun? Ino said. When Naruto nodded, she kissed him on the cheek too and ran off. Naruto stood there, touching his cheeks. They kissed me, he said in a daze. Naruto dressed in almost the same outfit as he used before, but he used the jacket with the orange kyuubi on and he didn't have any weapons on him. He had combed his hair, so it was a little less wild. He now stood outside the Yamanaka flower shop. He gulped and went in. There he saw a woman he identified as Ino's mother standing behind the desk. He walked up to her, although a little hesitantly. I want to buy some flowers. He said and Ino's mother looked at him. You are Naruto-kun, Ino's boyfriend? She asked and Naruto nodded. Ino's mother walked out from behind the desk, stood in front of him with her hands at her hips, looking at him closely. Naruto felt like he was being examined for something. She told me about your little threesome. If you hurt my daughter, then I'll personally hurt you. Got that? Ino's mother said, and Naruto nodded, too scared to do anything else. And the other is Haruno Sakura, right? Ino's mother asked, and Naruto nodded. Well then, I have just the flowers for you, Naruto-kun. She said and walked away. Moments later she came back with 2 bouquets of flowers. One of them were yellow roses, and the other were pink roses. Naruto paid and thanked Ino's mother. Wait here, and I'll go get Ino. Ino's mother said. A couple of minutes later she came back, along with Ino's father, who walked over and shook Naruto's hand. Yamanaka Inoshi. Inoshi said. Uzumaki Naruto. Naruto replied. They heard someone walk behind them and turned to see Ino. Naruto nearly passed out. She was stunning. Wearing a light blue kimono with a yellow obi that somehow showed off her curves perfectly. She had her hair loose, flowing down her shoulder, and had a little makeup on, not a lot but enough to enhance her beauty. Naruto's eyes were close to bulging out of their sockets. Well, how do I look? Ino asked and did a little twirl. Ino-chan, you look perfect. Naruto said, and Ino blushed a little, while Ino's parents looked happy. Thank you, Naruto-kun. You look good as well. Ino said. Naruto remembered the flowers and held out the yellow ones to Ino. But when he saw that Ino's mother shook her head behind Ino's back and used hand gestures to say that he should switch flowers, he hurriedly changed flowers and gave Ino the pink ones. These are for you, Ino-chan. Naruto said, and Ino smiled sweetly at him. Thank you, Naruto-kun. Wait here while I put them in a vase. She said and hurried away. Now Naruto, take good care of my daughter, okay? Inoshi said, and Naruto nodded. I will, sir. He said. Then Ino returned and they left for the Haruno residence. So you finally have a boyfriend, huh? And it's Naruto too. Rin said, happy for her daughter. But when are you going to get a boyfriend? It's been so long since dad died, and you have to get out of the house and date again. Sakura said while getting ready for her date. Easy for you to say, but I guess you are right. I should begin dating again, and to be honest, I am in love again. Rin said, and Sakura turned to her mother. Oh, who? Sakura asked eagerly, and Rin blushed. You'll just think I am disgusting or something. Rin said. No, I won't. It's Tenchi, isn't it? Sakura asked, hopeful in her voice. Rin was surprised, but happy that Sakura seemed okay with it. She nodded. Yes, it is him, and I know he loves me too, but I am afraid. Rin said and sat down on Sakura's bed. Afraid of what? Sakura asked. Of being in a relationship again. Rin replied, and Sakura hugged her. Don't worry. Tenchi-sensei isn't going to hurt you. Sakura said, and Rin looked at her curiously. Tenchi-sensei? She asked, and Sakura nodded. He wanted us to call him that, and besides, if he is to be your boyfriend, then I can't call him uncle, can I? Sakura asked, but before Rin could reply, the doorbell rang. Oh, I have to finish up. Go stall him, Sakura said and started applying makeup to her face. Rin shook her head and walked down to answer the door. When she opened the door, she saw a handsome Naruto and a beautiful Ino. Hello Naruto-kun, Ino-chan. Come in. Sakura isn't quite ready yet. Rin said cheerfully. Geez, why is Sakura taking so long? Ino asked, and Rin giggled slightly. She was too busy giving me relationship advice. She said, and Naruto looked at her. Oh, and who do you need advice about? He asked. Tenchi. Rin said softly. Neither Ino nor Naruto looked very surprised. So, it wasn't accidentally that you slept on him? Naruto asked, and Rin blushed before shaking her head. Nope, I planned for that to happen. She said with a big smile on her face. Then Sakura came down, and once again Naruto nearly passed out. Sakura wore a light pink kimono with a green obi that, like Ino's, showed off her body. Sakura had a red ribbon replacing her forehead protector and a little rouge on her cheeks. Sakura-chan. You look beautiful, Naruto said, and Sakura blushed a little. Thank you, Naruto-kun. Oh, for me, Sakura said when she saw the flowers. Naruto held them out and Sakura smiled while smelling them. Thank you. Mom, can you put them into a vase? Sakura asked. Without waiting for an answer, she handed Rin the flowers, hooked her arm around Naruto's, and they walked out. Rin felt oddly alone when she saw them, and decided to do something about that. She quickly put the flowers into a vase, went into her bedroom and changed into a civilian version of the Junin outfit, dark blue pants and sweatshirt with the red swirl on the shoulders. She brushed her hair and tied it into a ponytail with a sky blue ribbon before heading towards the apartment of a certain Junin. Naruto, Sakura and Ino walked towards the restaurant hand in hand, happy to be with each other. When they reached the restaurant, Naruto handed over the reservation slip, and they were shown to their table, although the waiter didn't look too happy to be serving Naruto. What is all this? Naruto asked while looking at the menu. Food, Sakura replied. But Sakura-chan, they don't have ramen here. Naruto whined. Naruto-kun, from now on you won't be allowed to eat ramen all the time. It isn't good for you and it shunts your growth. Ino scolded and Naruto looked sad. Don't worry, Naruto-kun. There is a lot of food that is much better than ramen. Sakura said, and Naruto looked a little happier. So, what do you two suggest I have then? Naruto asked, not wanting to try and understand the strange and rather large menu. How about this? Steak and rice, Ino suggested, and Naruto nodded. Okay. So, what are you having? He asked, and Sakura and Ino looked at the menu again. I think I'll have the shrimp with salad. Sakura said. I'll have the vegetarian soup. Ino said, and the three of them looked around for their waiter. So, you three decided on what to have? She asked when she saw that they had decided. Number 9, 12 and 14. Sakura said, and the waiter nodded. And to drink? She asked. Water please. Ino said, and the waiter nodded. So, what did you learn after the warm-ups today, Naruto-kun? Ino asked, and Naruto puffed out his chest slightly. Tenshi-sensei taught me something called Iijutsu. You attack while drawing the sword. Sensei was really fast with it, I only saw a flash. What about you two? Naruto said, and the girls looked at each other. Sensei taught us how to draw correctly. And then he taught us basic kata. Ino said. But that slashing was really hard. I never thought swinging a blade around would be so hard. Sakura said, and Naruto nodded. Yeah, and I bet the training with Tenshi-sensei and Hayate-sensei is going to be tough as well. Naruto said, and the girls nodded in agreement. Then their food arrived and the three of them ate. Hey, this is really good. Naruto said eagerly, and the girls chuckled at his enthusiasm. Have you ever eaten anything other than ramen? Ino asked, and Naruto shook his head. No, or wait, I have eaten Rin-ne-san's food. That was really great as well. Naruto said happily. Yeah, she is a great cook. Sakura said, and Ino nodded while continuing the meal. After the dinner, the three lovebirds walked a little around Konoha until Naruto got an idea. He grabbed the two girls and led them towards the Konoha park. Naruto-kun, Sakura said, but he just smiled at her. They reached a pine tree and sat down under it, Naruto in the middle with his arms around the girls, who leaned against him. They sat there in silence for a while, just enjoying being with each other. Then Naruto remembered something. Sakura-chan? Naruto asked. Yes, she replied. How would you react if Tenshi-sensei started dating your mom? Naruto asked, and Sakura grinned. Oh, that would be so great. They look so cute together. She said. She loves him, but how does he feel about her? Ino asked. I don't know, but I hope he likes her the same. Sakura said. And that they hook up soon. I stayed with Tenshi-sensei for a day after we trained together, since my apartment was trashed. His apartment didn't have any pictures or anything. I even have more pictures and personal possessions. Naruto said. Perhaps he hadn't taken them out from his backpack after the trip. Sakura suggested, snuggling closer into Naruto's chest. I don't think so. His place really seemed empty. I don't think he has many friends. Naruto said and Ino nodded slowly. When I think about it, Sensei doesn't seem to have much social skills. I wonder why, she said. Perhaps he never learned them. Sakura suggested. That can't be, I have more social skills than him, and I am supposed to be hated. Naruto said, a bit of sadness evident in his voice. I agree with Sakura though. Sensei told us himself. He has trained all his life. He was strong enough to inflict a lot of damage on Kyuubi when he was only 7. I don't think he ever was taught social skills, only how to be a ninja. Ino said and Naruto looked down on the ground sadly. But why? Why would Yondaime-sama do something like that to someone he adopted as his own son? Naruto asked. War. Sakura replied. When she got 2 questioning looks, she sighed and began to explain. When Sensei was young, Konoha was at war. I think that Sensei was trained so much so that he could become a weapon for Konoha and help during the war. Sakura finished. A living weapon. That sounds. Naruto began but Ino finished. Cold, she said and both Naruto and Sakura nodded. Perhaps Rin can help him become a human again, if it is true that Konoha has turned him into a weapon. Ino said and Naruto straightened. If she can't, then we will. We will help Tenshi-Asen. Naruto announced and the 2 girls giggled. Naruto-kun, how do you do that? Ino asked. Do what? He asked back. Instantly brighten a situation. Sakura said and Naruto grinned his trademark fox grin. I don't know, guess I am a natural. He said and the 2 girls giggled again. The rest of the date was spent either in silence, with the 3 of them just basking in each other's company, or with the girls gossiping a little. Rin stood in front of the door leading to an apartment, but not just any apartment. Tenshi's. Okay, I can do this. Just knock and take things from there. Rin thought, raised her hand and knocked on the door. After a few moments, a sleepy Tenshi opened the door. His eyes widened when he saw who it was. Rin. Good to see you. How are you? Tenshi asked and led Rin into the apartment. Tenshi, I have to speak with you about something. Rin said and Tenshi became serious. What is it? Is something wrong? He asked. No, nothing is wrong. In fact, it is very right. Rin said and got an absent smile on her face. Okay, Tenshi said while sitting down on the couch inside his apartment. Rin looked around. Tenshi's apartment was a small 2-room apartment, the hallway leading straight into the living room, and the kitchen on the right while the only bedroom to the left. The apartment was clean, but empty. The living room had a couch for 3 people, a small coffee table, a chair and a TV. The kitchen was modern but slightly small, and the bedroom only had a desk, an office chair, a bookshelf and a futon. The only picture in the whole apartment was on that bookshelf, the team picture of Tenshi, Rin, Kakashi and Yondaime. Rin shook her head sadly and sat down next to Tenshi, who by now was very curious about what she wanted. Tenshi, I have something to tell you. Rin said. Okay. Tenshi replied. Do you remember late on Saturday? You were sitting here and working on a scroll. Rin said and Tenshi nodded. Of course. I was. Huh, how did you know I was working on a scroll? Tenshi asked, looking suspiciously at Rin. I was here. Anko and Kurenai were here. Kurenai used a genjutsu to hide us, and then a genjutsu to make you tell us how you feel about me, Rin said, hesitating a little at the end. Tenshi's eyes almost bulged out of their sockets. He jumped to his feet and backed a little away from Rin, not knowing whether or not to be angry or not. Rin was first surprised by his action, before becoming slightly sad. I am sorry if that upset you, she said with her head bowed, but then she stood up, looked Tenshi in the eyes, walked the 2 steps between them, looked up at him and gave him a tender kiss on the lips. But I love you as well. Rin said, smiling a genuine smile at Tenshi, whose eyes widened again. He stood frozen. That made Rin a little nervous. Say something. she said, trying to sound as gentle as she could. I don't know what to do. I love you too, as you already know, but what happens now? Tenchi asked, uncertainty clear in his voice and body language. Rin giggled a little at that, and hugged him while resting her head on his chest. Well, I should have expected that. It is rather simple though. Either we try and forget this, Rin said, but Tenchi interrupted. No, not that. I don't want to hide my feelings anymore. Please Rin, not that. Tenchi pleaded and Rin giggled again. Or we become a couple. Personally I prefer the latter. She said and looked up at him again. I am tired of hiding my feelings too. I want to show you how much I love you, as a girlfriend and not a pretend sister. Rin said and Tenchi smiled widely, before hugging Rin. Wow, I can stop feeling guilty now, he said and she frowned. You have felt guilty. Why? Rin asked. I didn't think my feelings were right, so I felt guilty for feeling them. Tenchi explained and Rin backed a little away. Don't feel guilty over loving me. Never ever do that, okay? She asked and Tenchi nodded. Rin smiled and hugged Tenchi again. He then placed a hand under her chin and gently lifted her head so she was looking at him. They smiled at each other. That felt good, I want more. Tenchi said and kissed Rin tenderly. Her eyes widened slightly, before she began to kiss back. Suddenly Tenchi lifted Rin in the air without breaking the kiss, walked over to the couch and sat down with her in his lap, never breaking the kiss. They stayed that way, kissing and hugging, for a long while. Meanwhile, Ino and Sakura were beginning to become a bit sleepy. Naruto-kun, perhaps we should head back home so we can get a good night's sleep. I am sure that Tenchi-sensei and Hayate-sensei are going to push us hard tomorrow. Sakura said and Ino nodded. Yeah, this has been great, but I don't want to be tired before training. That would be hell, Ino said and Naruto chuckled. Okay, so who do I follow home first? Naruto asked and in unison the girls nearly shouted. Her. Okay, that didn't help. Naruto said, but the girls didn't notice it, since they were glaring at each other. Naruto sighed and thought of something. Grasping behind him, he picked up 2 leaves, one of them he split in 2. He then held the leaves up, making it seem they were equal. One of them is smaller. The girl that gets that, we follow home first. Naruto said. The girls didn't see anything wrong with that, and each pulled a leaf. It was Ino who drew the short leaf. Damn, she cursed while Sakura cheered about having more time with her Naruto-kun. The 3 got up and walked towards the Yamanaka flower shop, Ino frowning and Sakura half dancing. Naruto saw how they fought over him and wanted them to stop. Why can't they just get along? Naruto asked Kyuubi. I don't know. They seem to be rivals over just about anything, including you. But I sense something underneath as well. Can I make a suggestion? The age-old fox responded and Naruto mentally nodded. Kyuubi told Naruto his plan, and in turn Naruto blushed. I can't do that. That's too soon. Naruto yelled inside his own mind, but Kyuubi ignored him. Fine, I'll do it. And I'll even enjoy it, perverted fox. Naruto thought as the 3 genin walked together, Naruto in the middle with an arguing girl on his side. The 3 genin arrived outside the Yamanaka flower shop, and Ino hugged Naruto. Thanks for a great night Naruto-kun. I really enjoyed it, Ino said. Naruto hugged her back, before hesitating slightly, then placing a soft kiss on her lips. Ino's eyes widened, before she started to enjoy herself. Sakura, on the other hand, was feeling incredibly jealous. Naruto was enjoying himself, but broke the kiss after a little while. Thanks Ino-chan. I really enjoyed it as well. I'll see you tomorrow, Naruto said, grabbed Sakura's hand and started to walk toward the Haruno residence. What he didn't see was Ino standing behind with a dazed look on her face. Naruto-kun, why did you kiss Ino pig? Sakura asked, sounding slightly hurt. Naruto turned to her and smiled his regular fox grin. Because we walked her home first. Naruto simply replied. At that moment, they arrived. Sakura, still heard about Naruto and Ino kissing, walked up to her door and was about to say goodbye, when she felt Naruto's hand on her shoulder. She turned around, was about to ask what he wanted when she felt something soft and warm pressed against her lips. Like Ino, Sakura's eyes widened before she started kissing Naruto back. Amazingly, Naruto broke the kiss when they had kissed as long as Ino and him. Bye Sakura-chan. I'll see you tomorrow, Naruto said cheerfully. Sakura smiled and hugged Naruto. Sure thing Naruto-kun. Thanks for a great night, Sakura said and walked into her house. Inside her home, she looked around. It was dark and silent. Huh, mom is out somewhere, Sakura thought before beginning to get ready for bed. Naruto walked home, while gently touching his lips. I actually kissed them, and it felt so good. I have to kiss them more often, he thought and nearly skipped home, riding on cloud 9 in pure bliss and happiness. The next day, Sakura woke up, but couldn't find her mother. Now, where is she? Perhaps a mission, but she usually leaves me a note. Sakura thought a little worried about Rin, but she got ready for training anyway. 3 genin stood in front of 2 junin, one of them looking strangely happy. Tenshi-sensei, why are you looking so happy? Sakura asked. Oh, nothing. I just had a good night's sleep. So, today we are going to train mostly with your blades, but also you are going to practice your. Begin with the usual warm-up, Tenshi said. Naruto, Sakura and Ino began running. Tenshi, to Hayate's surprise, increased his weights and joined his team in their warm-up. While running, Tenshi, Naruto, Sakura and Ino chatted about everyday things, but focused on the date the genin had been on. Smiling and shaking his head at the sight of friendship between sensei and students, Hayate started preparing for teaching the kids. That was how the week went. Team 7 did a D-rank mission in the morning, met with Hayate at the training area, did their warm-up, with and without their blades, learned the art of their blades from Hayate for most of the day, and practiced there for about 1.5 hours every day. They were growing stronger and faster and had to increase their weights 2 times that week. In their spare time, Naruto, Sakura and Ino spent as much time together as they could. Frequently they would be seen either at the training grounds, Ichiraku Ramen or at the Haruno residence, or out on a date. Tenshi also spent more time with Rin, although Naruto, Sakura and Ino didn't see that much, since the 2 junin had decided to hide their relationship for a while. The 2 of them trained together, spent quiet moments together while enjoying each other's company, walked through Konoha together and generally spent time together. Rin would also be less and less home, but tried to be home when Sakura went home, so she could be at least a little with her daughter. On late Friday, Team 7 weren't looking forward to the next day, since they would train with Team 10 again. Do we really have to train with them? Naruto whined while walking back to Konoha. Well, do you want Sasuke to surpass you and think he is better than you? Tenshi asked. No way. I'm not going to lose to that bastard, Naruto yelled. Sakura and Ino smiled at that, while Tenshi and Hayate covered their ears. No need to be so loud, Tenshi said and Naruto grinned sheepishly. Well, I'll see you for so next week, Hayate said and Team 7 nodded before he vanished in a poof. I want to learn that, Ino said and Tenshi chuckled. You will, someday you will. But not yet. Come on, I think Rin has dinner ready, Tenshi said and the 3 genin rolled their eyes. Tenshi loved Rin's cooking, apparently he couldn't get enough of it. That Saturday, an annoyed Team 7 and 10 stood in their training area, waiting for Kakashi to appear. Tenshi sighed after 15 minutes and turned to the genin. Alright you 6, I am going to get Kakashi. Meanwhile you start with your regular warm-ups. I don't know if Team 10 has any regular routine for warming up, but my team has. Get moving and I'll be right back, Tenshi said and poofed away to go get a lazy and late junin. While he did that, Naruto, Sakura and Ino started to run around the training area. Sasuke, Shikamaru and Choji watched as Team 7 ran and chatted happily, clearly enjoying what they were doing, or was it that they were doing it together? Anyway, Team 7 looked happy to be doing their warm-up. Sasuke snorted and started punching a log. Shikamaru looked at the clouds while Choji ate some more chips. Of course, Naruto noticed that. Hey girls, what do you think the teamwork between those three will be? Naruto asked, and the two girls looked over and saw that Team 10 was basically divided in the middle. I don't think it will be very good, Ino said thoughtfully. But Sasuke must be very confident if he thinks he can handle everything himself. Has he really gotten that much stronger since last time? Sakura wondered and Naruto frowned. Yeah, that would explain why he doesn't bother with his teammates. Bastard thinks he is so strong that he can beat everyone. I'll show him. I don't care if he is a genius ninja, I'll surpass him. Naruto boasted and Sakura smiled slightly at his antics while Ino giggled slightly. Naruto-kun, you sure are something special, you know that? Ino said and Naruto scratched his head sheepishly. Yeah, all for you too, he said and the girls smiled at each other for that. Then they finished with their laps, and began with the push-ups and other exercises. Tenchi was annoyed. He had to leave his team and search for the ever-late Junin, and he had trouble finding him. Oh, screw this, Tenchi said, before going to Kakashi's apartment, picking the lock, going inside, brought chakra to his nose and began sniffing. Once he was certain he had Kakashi's scent, he went out again, locked the door after him and began following the scent trail. It led him to a shop containing adults, reading and entertainment. To say Tenchi was even more annoyed was an understatement. On top of that, the smell from that shop wasn't exactly good for his nose, so he quickly stopped his chakra flow to the nose, cutting off his advanced sense of smell. Then he walked into the shop, looked around until he saw the familiar silver hair of Kakashi. Walking over, Tenchi stared at Kakashi. He was reading the latest Ica Ica Paradise edition. It had to be edition 15 or something. Jiraiya sure writes a lot, Tenchi thought before clearing his voice. Kakashi, get your ass in motion and get to the training area, Tenchi said in a stern tone. Kakashi looked up from his book. Oh Tenchi, I didn't see you there. Are you here to buy the new edition as well? Kakashi asked, but Tenchi shook his head. No, come on, I put the teams to do warm-ups, they should be finished soon, Tenchi said, and rolled his eyes at the suggestion of buying a book like that. He had one edition, and after reading it, he found out 3 things. 1. He hated perverts. 2. He wasn't a pervert himself. 3. Rin was much prettier than the girls in that book. Oh, okay, I'll just buy this then, Kakashi said and made his way over to the clerk and bought the book. Still reading it while Tenchi and Kakashi walked out of the shop, Kakashi soon started giggling like a schoolgirl. Well, it seems we were just in time, Kakashi stated when he and Tenchi reached the training area. Naruto and Sasuke looked ready to kill each other. What happened and why are you two fighting? Tenchi asked sternly, crossing his arms and looking at the genin. Sasuke-tem made Ino-chan and Sakura-chan feel bad again. Naruto said. Hey, if they can't take even that, then they have no business being ninja, Sasuke said, smirking slightly. Tenchi shook his head, and looked at Kakashi, who looked slightly annoyed. Well, what did he say? Kakashi asked Sakura and Ino. But it was Sasuke who spoke up. Oh, not much. Just that they are weak and can never hope to do any good in a battle, Sasuke said arrogantly. Is that so? If I remember correctly, Sakura gave you a hard time in your latest spar. And also, being weak as you put it, don't you think that counts for yourself as well? I mean, you don't stand a chance against, say Kakashi for instance, Tenchi said and grinned when Sasuke growled. I don't care. They are weak. Going out on dates, grooming their hair and whatnot, Sasuke stated sourly. Idiot. Didn't Kakashi tell you to look underneath? Tenchi asked angrily. So, was the simple reply, but both Tenchi and Kakashi shook their heads. We're not going to tell you. Now, if Sasuke can shut up, we can begin. Today we will be focusing on. Tenchi has told me what Team 7 knows, so we have planned what to teach you today. Kakashi said in a bored tone, while reading his book. First we are going to teach you a move called Cage Shuriken no Jutsu. It is similar to Naruto's Cage Bunshin. What you do is throw a weapon, shuriken or kunai or something, form the seals and the weapon divides into several. One kunai can become 4 for instance, depending on how much chakra you put into the more clones. Here are the seals. Tenchi said and formed the seals slowly. Each genin started performing them, while Kakashi and Tenchi supervised. Later that same day, Naruto, Sakura, Ino, Sasuke and Shikamaru had gotten down, while Choji needed some more help. Naruto had been the first, since the Cage Shuriken reminded him of the Cage Bunshin. Sakura and Ino had managed to do it after meditating and watching Tenchi and Naruto perform several times for them. Sasuke had gotten there quickly, almost as fast as Naruto, and Tenchi suspected that the Uchiha bloodline had something to do with that. Shikamaru was used to shadowing, and the Cage Shuriken weren't that difficult, or so he had told Choji. Poor Choji couldn't get them for some reason. Okay, while Tenchi and Choji work on this, we are going to train speed and strength. Kakashi announced, to the disappointment of the genin. Ah, I want to learn something new. Naruto whined and Sakura and Ino rolled their eyes slightly. Well, you have learned one today. That is enough for a while. Now begin with punches and kicks on a log each. Kakashi commanded and sat down on a stump and read his book. Sakura and Ino were annoyed that the Junin dared read that in front of them, but didn't say anything. 3 hours later, Choji still couldn't get it. Tenchi was frustrated. He's more interested in eating his chips than getting this. No wonder he can't do it. Tenchi thought, eyeing Choji, who happily sat on the ground, munching down bag after bag of chips. Shaking his head, Tenchi walked over to Kakashi. Okay, I think that is enough for today. Kakashi said and Tenchi nodded. Yeah, see you around. Tenchi said as Naruto, Sakura and Ino walked over. They then headed to their own training area. What are we going to do now, sensei? Ino asked. I was thinking. I have started making your taijutsu better by improving your strength, speed and stamina. Your ninjutsu is also getting better and your chakra control has literally gone through the roof. Sword fighting is also something you three are getting better at. What is left then? Tenchi asked and Naruto squinted his eyes while thinking. Tracking and concealing. Naruto suggested. Stealth training. Ino said cheerfully. Genjutsu. Sakura said and Tenchi chuckled. Well, all three of you were right. So I decided to teach you in those aspects now. Starting with stealth. Tenchi said and they arrived at their training area. There he pointed to a fallen log and the 3 genin sat down on it. Okay. Now stealth is not something that you have to know to be able to do, although some help, like the Musei Hara no silent field. That helps muffle sounds you make, but it is best if you become good at stealth without helping you. In order to be good at stealth, you have to be good at knowing your surroundings, using them and hiding your presence. We are going to work on that by me doing something to this area, and you three try to spot it. Okay. Tenchi asked and the 3 genin nodded. Tenchi then vanished and the 3 genin started looking around the area. Nothing seemed out of place, until Naruto spotted a broken branch. Ha! I saw you, sensei. There's a broken branch over there. Naruto yelled while pointing to the branch. The 2 girls followed his gaze and smiled at him. Good work, Naruto-kun. Ino praised. Yeah, you got this faster than us. Sakura joined in and Naruto blushed from the praise. Okay. Again. Tenchi's voice came loudly, seemingly from everywhere at once and the genin saw that the branch was back in its normal position again. As you probably have figured out, I'll reset the surroundings from whatever I do to it each time you find something. Tenshi's voice boomed again. The genin resumed their observing of their surroundings. This time, it seemed as Tenshi was a little more strict. For a while, neither of the genin could see any change in the surroundings. Then Sakura spotted a rock that was moved. Sensei, I spotted you. Sakura half yelled, enthusiasm clear in her voice. Good work, Sakura. Again, Tenshi's voice came, and as by a miracle the stone was back in place. A few hours passed with the three genin getting increasingly better at spotting what Tenshi did to the surroundings. They had cut the time it took for them to spot the disturbance down to a third. Tenshi was very pleased. Very good. You three have got this very fast. I don't think we should do more today. Next week I am going to continue training you three in stealth, and I will show you a little on genjutsu and how to counter it. But as you know, tomorrow is our day off. I already know that you think of training together. I don't think that would be smart. Tenshi said. Objections to that arose immediately. Why can't I train with Sakura-chan and Ino-chan? Naruto yelled. I want to show Naruto-kun my special. Ino yelled as well. I'm not letting Ino Pig have Naruto-kun alone. Sakura yelled, and a vein pooped out on Ino's forehead, pulsing slightly. Tenshi rubbed his temples and sighed. Shut up for a moment. What I meant was that you three should train with your family. I know that Rin wants to teach Sakura some medical things, Sakura, and I bet Inoshi wants to train Ino in their family abilities. I think that would be more beneficial for you three than to train with each other, since I think that you have to develop different skills so that you can do different tasks in the team. Tenshi explained, and Sakura and Ino nodded, while Naruto looked slightly down. Sakura and Ino noticed and glared at Tenshi. What about Naruto-kun? Ino almost growled out. Are you just going to ignore him? Sakura said, her voice forcibly calm. Tenshi chuckled while looking at the ground, and the three genin looked at him like he had grown a second head. What's so funny? Ino asked. At that, Tenshi looked at them, his eyes hard. He spoke, his tone not leaving any room for doubt or objection. Of course not. Tomorrow I will be teaching Naruto. This was just the beginning. The real secret will unfold in the next episode. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And hit the bell icon so you'll be the first to see what happens next. See you again in the next journey of Uzumaki Empire 2.0.